all probability students.
Cool.
If you know a family has 2 children,
Uh-huh.
you walk into the house and there's a 10-year-old boy sitting on the couch.
Okay.
What's the odds that the other child is a boy?
50-50.
Nope.
Is that right?
This
So there's two.
is what's so fun about probability, is that you can come up with problems that'll completely blow people's minds.
Cool.
This is one of them.
Okay.
All right.
So there's a
What
10-year-old boy.
ways can 2 children be born? They can be born girl, girl,
Boy, boy.
boy, boy,
Boy, girl.
boy, girl, or girl, boy.
Yeah.
If we know their ages. In other words, this is the firstborn,
Uh-huh.
this is the secondborn. Well, when you come in and you see one of the children is a girl,
Uh-huh.
eliminates that possibility right there.
Yeah.
Now, of the 3 possibilities, all of which are equally likely,
Uh-huh.
one of them has 2 girls and the other 2 has boys as the other. Did I say you saw a boy?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Well, then I crossed out the wrong one. I should have crossed out this one.
oh, you're okay.
In other words, it eliminates the girl-girl possibility.
Okay.
So now we have 3 equal possibilities.
Yeah.
Well, of those 3, I said, what are the probability that the other child is also a boy? 1/3.
One. Yeah. Interesting.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
I almost started a family feud once by we were watching a DVD night when my dad was still alive, and there was like 12 relatives at his house, and we were all watching a movie,
Right.
and I brought up this probability problem.
Uh-huh.
Even though everybody knew I had a math degree from Mines,
Uh-huh.
nobody, not of the 14 people that were there, would accept my answer of 1/3.
Really?
Nobody would believe it. They were all convinced it had to be 50-50.
That's really? Like,
Yeah, and I'm not kidding you when I say this is one of the most famous probability problems, because it illustrates this principle called restricted choice. And
def
you're not going to get this in high school algebra,
no, probably
but if you did ever take a probability class, uh,
not. Mm-hmm.
you would definitely see this problem. And
Cool.
this can be stated in a number of ways, but now the problem becomes a little different if you walk into the house and the parent is there and they say, this is my oldest child, and it's a boy.
Okay.
That changes everything.
Does it?
Yeah, because notice that if it's the oldest child, not only do you eliminate girl, girl,
Uh-huh.
you eliminate girl, boy. In other words, can't be the oldest child. If you saw a boy, then the girl was not the firstborn.
That's true. Yeah.
Now you only have 2 possibilities,
Uh-huh.
and of those possibilities, the other child being a boy is now 1/2.
Interesting.
So merely by knowing whether the child is the older or younger sibling
Uh-huh.
changes the odds on what the probability of the other child's gender being.
That's weird.
Isn't that weird? That is the coolest thing in the world. I think that's
That's
one thing that made me fall in love with probability,
uh-huh.
things like this. And believe it or not, it actually has quite a bit of utility. I used to play a lot of tournament bridge.
Yeah.
And this situation basically comes up a lot in bridge.
Oh, okay.
Um, it's hard if you don't know how to play bridge. I'm not sure I could explain it to you. But
Mm-hmm.
this exact principle called restricted choice
Uh-huh.
comes up in bridge, and it affects the way you play. And you can always take the superior mathematical play by understanding this principle. And a lot of bridge players don't. They don't have a clue. And so
Right.
they're always making the wrong play. But if you
Okay.
understand the principle of restricted choice, which is what is going on with this problem here,
Uh-huh.
then you can make the correct play. And
Okay.
you're going to be twice as successful as somebody who's making the incorrect play.
Right.
So probability is pretty cool. In fact,
Yes.
I used to believe for most of my life that everything was predetermined.
Okay.
Every molecule in the universe has a certain position and a certain direction.
Uh-huh.
And as long as you know what it is, then you can predict where that molecule is going to be 10 years from now, 100 years from now, a million years from now.
Interesting.
And if every molecule is like that, then everything's predetermined. Has to be. If there's an asteroid that's 10 billion miles from Earth that's on a path to hit Earth,
Uh-huh.
nothing gets in its way, it's hitting Earth.
Yeah. That's true.
That's
For sure.
predetermined, okay? And
Okay.
and that's kind of the way I felt the whole universe was. But then I started learning about quantum physics.
Uh-huh.
And in quantum physics, nothing is predetermined. Everything is probabilistic.
Interesting.
You do not know where, you can look where a molecule is at any given moment, but you cannot predict where it's going to be a moment later.
Okay.
It's determined by probability. Probability rules the world of quantum, which is the world of the small. Not the
Right.
world of the big, but the world of the small. And it totally rules. In other words, physicists have no idea where a molecule is going to be at any point in time. They can
Right.
determine its position or its velocity, but not both. It's impossible to determine both.
Oh.
And it ends up just being a probability that the molecule will be in a certain spot. 60% probability if I were to draw a square, I might say 60% probability it'll end up there, 30%
Right.
over here, 10% there. And you can come
Right.
up with a probability grid, but it's all probability. There's no certainty at all.
Right.
And so probability rules the quantum world. And the more I learn about physics, the more I kind of believe that probability rules the entire universe.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing is predetermined because
Interesting.
there is always the element of probability. And if you think about things from a
Uh-huh.
probability point of view, it's like going the night before the election.
Uh-huh.
Clinton was 84% likely to win.
Right.
Trump was 16% likely to win.
Oh, jeez.
Okay?
Uh-huh.
Everybody said after the election that all of the pundits got it wrong. Well, they didn't.
Mm. No.
They didn't get it wrong. Clinton was 84% likely to win and Trump was 16%.
Right. That's not wrong.
That
Yeah.
means that there's like a 1 in 6 chance that Trump's going to win.
Uh-huh.
And nobody was wrong in putting the odds at 84-16.
Uh-huh.
That was perfectly reasonable based on all of the polls and all the information that everybody had.
Right.
But you don't change what the odds should have been based on the results.
Mm-hmm.
The odds still were 84-16 and nobody got anything wrong. It's just that 1 out of every 6 times Trump's going to win that. I also remember that they came on the news the morning of the election and they said, remember that 84% is the same as the likelihood of a place kicker in the NFL hitting a 38-yard field goal.
Okay.
Well, I've seen a lot of 38-yard field goals missed.
Yeah, I have two. They either like
It missed
they
5
hook
to
it
6
or they
times.
just
That doesn't
yeah.
change the odds. Every time that kicker goes to kick a 38-yard field goal, the odds are still 84% that he's going to make it.
Right. They're not going to
No,
change.
misses. If he misses one, you don't go back and then say, well, the odds were 100% that he was going to miss it. Well, they weren't.
No.
So probability tends to rule just about everything, whether it's kicking a football or one football team beating another. I don't care how good a team is, baseball or football. It comes down to probability. When you play Chaparral, you guys might be a 98% favorite to win and 2% dogs to lose.
Right.
But that means 2 out of 100 times you're going to lose.
Exactly.
If you were to play them 100 games, 2 out of 100 you'd lose.
Right.
And so probability kind of rules everything. Nothing is certain in life. Nothing.
No, definitely.
You know, when you get in a car and drive to the baseball game, there's a finite probability you'll get in an accident.
Exactly.
And it just comes down to probabilities. And it turns out that everything in life is probabilistic. And
Interesting.
virtually nothing is certain. And I mean nothing. Except for maybe that asteroid that's 110 billion miles away that's headed towards Earth.
Right.
Well, there's a lot of disagreement in the scientific world as to whether or not we live in a probabilistic universe or a predetermined universe.
Interesting.
And
that could spark a lot of like different discussions about it.
Well, it's definitely an important question. Because if everything's predetermined, well, kind of means there's no such thing as free will. That's conclusion.
That's like if you look at it that way, yeah.
But if everything is probabilistic, I'm not sure there's still anything such as free will. So, but the probabilistic universe is not predictable. Stephen Hawking, the great physicist, thinks that the probabilistic nature of quantum physics works itself out such that when you deal with large objects like planets and asteroids and things like that, it is totally predetermined. So he still believes that the universe is completely predetermined despite the probabilistic nature of it on a quantum level.
Right. Is Stephen Hawking's the smartest man in the world right now? I think that's...
No, I don't think he's probably a little overrated, in fact. He's probably not even one of the top 5 or 10 physicists in the world.
Yeah.
One reason he's overrated is because he's still alive. I thought he'd be dead 40 years ago.
Right.
And he has done important stuff in the world of physics, including black holes and stuff. So he's got a lot of cred, but I don't think he's ever won a Nobel Prize.
I don't think he has, yeah.
And I've read from surveys of other top physicists that he's not considered one of the best.
Gotcha.
There are a few. He's certainly obviously very smart, and
yes, yeah.
Part of the reason he's so brilliant is because he is disabled. In other words, the fact that he's trapped in a body that he really only has his mind. He doesn't really have anything else going on in the world.
Really? No.
Not like he can go out and play baseball.
Right.
So he is different than you or I.
Uh-huh.
He can kind of live in his mind and think about things, math and physics and science, in ways
Right.
other people wouldn't be able to because uh, they just would operate differently.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
But
Yeah.
yeah, this two children problem, remember this one if you can. It's kind of hard to
Oh, well,
memorize and
it
work
is.
out, but it's one of the more fascinating problems in probability. In fact, you should give that to your teacher since,
Sure.
since you're in probability, but make sure you can explain it.
Right.
Otherwise,
Just don't give it to him
you're
and be
like,
like,
well,
I
you're
don't know how to
liable to run into a teacher at Chatfield that doesn't know this problem
Uh-huh.
and would disagree with you. You told them one.
Right.
Um, so make sure that if you do tell them about it, that you understand it exactly. And you can always look it up on Google. Just go to Google and say the two-child probability problem, and
And,
it'll show it to you.
for sure. It's like show you the steps of how to do it and stuff.
Yeah, in other words, it could explain everything that I explained, but it's all based on the order that the children can be born and which ones get eliminated when you see
Uh-huh.
a certain amount of information. What blows my mind on this problem is the fact that it matters whether you know that the child is the oldest child or not.
That is weird to think.
Yeah,
Like you wouldn't think a
know that it's
probability
the
problem
oldest child,
would,
it's 1/3, and if you know that it's the oldest child, it's 1/2.
right? Like you wouldn't think a probability problem would like
You wouldn't think it
include that,
mattered. No, you
include
wouldn't
age
think
and
it would matter
stuff.
at all, but it does.
No.
It does.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
Definitely.
probability can really get interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
Uh,
Yeah. Cool.
all right. Well, I'll let you go.
Okay. Sounds good.
How much probability you learned, but
No, that
this is
was
a
a good session. Like,
good
yeah,
problem.
it's kind
If
of
you
cool
don't
to.
know any probability but this is a fun one to know.
Oh, definitely. That's for sure. This one is an interesting one. I like that one. It's kind of cool.
All right, Dylan. I'll talk to you Wednesday night. Hopefully you'll have some homework to work on Wednesday.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully.
All right.
All right.
Have a good one. Bye.
You too. Thanks for coming.